was a quiet Tuesday night in a gated Atlanta suburb. The kind of place where neighbors wave politely, lawns are perfectly trimmed, and crime seems like something that only happens on TV. But just after 2 a.m., a chilling 911 call shattered the illusion. "My wife, I think she's been shot. I just found her in the living room. Please, send someone now." When paramedics arrived, they found 36-year-old Emily Carter lying lifeless on the floor. A single gunshot wound to the head. No signs of life. Daniel, her husband of 12 years, was hysterical. He said he had been asleep upstairs and woke to what sounded like a gunshot. He ran downstairs and discovered Emily, already gone. At first glance, it looked like a tragic home invasion. But within hours, things didn't add up, and detectives started to wonder, was this a random act of violence or the perfect cover-up? To friends and family, Daniel and Emily were the ideal couple. High school sweethearts from Savannah, Georgia. They'd moved to Atlanta to build a life together. Emily was a pediatric nurse, known for her gentle nature and bright smile. Daniel worked in finance, making good money, driving a Tesla, and posting about grind culture on LinkedIn. On the outside, everything looked picture perfect. But behind closed doors, their marriage was unraveling. Emily's friends say she had become distant over the past year. She talked about how Daniel was becoming increasingly controlling. There were rumors of affairs on his end, and Emily had even spoken to a divorce attorney just weeks before her death. But Daniel didn't know that. At least, that's what he claimed. The crime scene didn't match Daniel's story. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken windows, no damaged locks, and oddly, no signs of struggle. Their dog, Bruno, a normally protective German shepherd, hadn't made a sound. Neighbors didn't hear barking or gunfire. Detectives found the murder weapon on the floor, inches from Emily's hand. A .38 revolver registered in Daniel's name. He said he kept it for protection. But the fingerprints? Wiped clean. Daniel suggested Emily might have taken her own life. But there were problems with that theory, too. Emily had been shot behind the ear, an angle difficult to self-inflict. There was no gunpowder residue on her hands. And most telling of all, she had just booked a solo trip to Colorado for next week. As detectives dug deeper, they uncovered what looked like motive: money. Daniel had taken out a $750,000 life insurance policy on Emily just 4 months earlier. When questioned, he said it was standard practice, something they did together. But it wasn't. Emily's signature was on the documents, but her sister swore Emily had never mentioned it. A handwriting analyst later determined the signature was likely forged. Investigators also traced Daniel's recent search history. Among the usual sports scores and stock alerts, there were some disturbing entries. How to fake a break-in. How loud is a .38 indoors? Fastest payout on life insurance after death. Just days before Emily died, Daniel had searched. How to make a murder look like suicide. Daniel insisted he was asleep during the murder. But a smart home system told a different story. Data from their Nest thermostat showed unusual motion between 1:45 and 2 a.m., including the front door being unlocked and relocked. Security camera footage? Deleted. Except he missed one. A cloud-connected baby monitor in the guest room, where Emily had been sleeping after a recent argument, caught blurry movement. A shadowy figure entering the room at 1:52 a.m. Detectives believe Daniel crept into the room, shot her at close range while she slept, then staged the scene to make it look like an intruder or suicide. Daniel Carter was arrested 3 weeks later and charged with first-degree murder. The courtroom was packed during the trial. His defense team painted him as a heartbroken husband, a man who had lost the love of his life. They argued that Emily had been battling depression and may have taken her own life. But the prosecution dismantled that narrative. They showed the jury the staged crime scene, the insurance policy, the forged signature, and most damning, the internet searches. It took the jury just 6 hours to reach a verdict. Guilty. Daniel Carter was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. At Emily's funeral, her sister stood up and said, Emily was planning a new chapter without Daniel. She just didn't realize how far he'd go to stop her. What started as a desperate 911 call from a grieving husband turned out to be the beginning of his own unraveling. Because sometimes the person screaming for help is the one you should fear the most.